Hello there. First of all, let me congratulate you for making this far. It means that you are dedicated, you are committed, and you really want to become a better developer. So as I. So let's continue. I'm Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. Thank you so much for viewing my tutorial. Now, what we encountered last time, the problem that we encountered is that when we're logging in, we still get the HTML document, something that the HTML page, something that we really don't want to do. Now what we are going to do, let's introduce functions. Okay, now let's introduce a function. Let's say, what is the function going to do? The function will check if are we loading. It's gonna check if are we loading the login page or we are loading the dashboard page. Okay, so let's call this function load HTML. Okay, right here before you close your PHP tag, let's just write a function. This is how you write a function. This function is going to be called, let's say for now, render HTML, simply because whatever that this function is going to do, it has got something to do with the HTML. The final display of this function is going to be HTML, so let's call it render HTML. Okay, as you know that this function won't be executed automatically. It will only be executed once it's been invoked or being called. Okay, now what we are going to do, we are going to take this part. If you are logged in, if you are not logged in, load this. If you are logged in, load the dashboard. Whatever that this code is doing, it has got something to do with rendering an HTML in the end. In the end, it's going to give us the HTML, so let it be render HTML, meaning that here it's like it's kept in the fridge. That means it won't get damaged. It's like, you know, a milk product, when you put it into the sun, so it will be damaged. But now here we are just freezing this code. We will only access it when we want it. Okay, and then we've got let's see. Okay, let's just put here. Okay, now we've got a clean what can I say, we've got a clean index document. Let's see if this index document is clean. When I'm saying it's a clean document, when we click this, it's not supposed to return something, as you can see, because we are not invoking this. This is not invoked automatically because it's under a function. If we want to invoke it, this is how we can do that. That means now we are invoking it. We are saying let it be executed. So let's check what's going to happen. As you can see, obviously there are some errors, don't mind about that, but it's being executed. Okay, let's go back. We don't want to execute it. Okay, let's see. Okay, then in terms of the session, whenever we get in here, we need to start the session. That one is something that we have to do. Okay, and also this root document, this root folder, let's leave it here because maybe we might use it even if we are not using it in this function, so let's leave it there. So now let's establish the rules of engagement. There must be some strict rules between this guy, which is the UI, and this guy, which is the back end. So now the back end needs some sort of an indicator as to who is calling me. So this index needs to be aware of who is calling. Okay, so meaning that if now, for instance, let's just refresh everything here. Now if somebody is visiting index for the very first time, the index is confused because the index is saying I've got nothing to load. So in a way, it needs to be aware, it needs to some sort of have that intelligence to decide if am I being loaded for the first time. So let's go and quickly implement that so that it can do something if it's being loaded for the first time. Okay, Let's see, how are we going to do that? I think this if is okay, not a problem, not a problem. Now let's assume again we are going to use this if. Okay, let us assume again. Okay, let us assume again we have a session variable which is let's say first time loading. Now this system needs to know, first of all, we have to start a session so that we can use session variable. Now the system is asking, are you loading for the first time? Okay, let's say, are you loading for the first time? So this if statement is asking, is this session variable set? That means if it is set, that means this is not loading for the first time because it is set. But if it's not set, that means it's loading for the first time. Okay, so what do we want to do when this is set, meaning that this is loading for the first time? If it's set, that means it's not loading for the first time. Sorry about that. So what we want it to do, okay, let's call the render HTML. That means if you're calling for the first time, then by default, okay, let's do this. Let's call render HTML for now. Okay, let's call render HTML. Okay, let's just read the condition again. If this session variable is set, that means if it's set, that means we are loading this for the second time. If it's not set, if it's empty, that means we are loading this page for the first time. Okay, let's see what is it going to do. Undefined variable, root and whatever. Okay, that's not a problem, I understand that. What we have done here, we just need to take this root and pass it to this function. Why are we going to pass this root to this function? It's simply because the scope of this code, we are using a variable that is only visible, or the variable that is within this scope. So this means that we were able to access this variable while this code was here, because they were in the same scope, more like in the same location. But now this root variable has moved to a very localized scope, which is between this one, inside this function. So meaning that this root here cannot be accessed because it is outside the scope of a function. If we want it to get inside the scope of a function, it's either we pass it, which is we have to receive it here. We have to receive it here as a parameter. Okay, let's see. Okay, not a problem. Let's receive it here as a parameter. As you can see, that will mean we have solved the problem. I just have to attend, somebody is knocking. Okay guys, I'm back again, sorry about that. So the error that we get, let me first show you the error and read it so that when I'm fixing it, then you can understand what I'm doing. So the error number 1 is saying undefined variable root in, this is the path on line 23. Let's just go there and check. Where is line 23? Here is line 23. It's saying this root is undefined. So how did we solve that? We said since now it's inside a function, it cannot access this same root. So the scope is not the same. So meaning that if we want to access this root in here, we must pass it as we are doing. So we are taking this root, we are passing it into a function, and here is we are passing it so that we can use it inside this function. Let's run the program and see. As you can see now, it's working fine. Okay, then let's continue. So this means that when this program is loading for the first time, it will call this render function. But what if it's not loading for the first time? That means okay, it will load this, and then after that it's going to continue. Okay, so let's just say die here. Okay, so that when if it has loaded this, then it will die. Let's just keep it like this. Okay, let's say if you're not loading for the first time, do this. That means you're loading for the first time. If you are not loading for the first time, then do that. Okay, it's fine. Let's continue. Okay, then going forward, talking about the rules of engagement between this guy and that guy, we need to test also. Let me just when we are here on top, let me just dump a variable called post. Var dump. Let me dump a global variable called post. Okay, this variable is a global variable. It's always like it's a super global variable. It's called post, is always available in the PHP engine or in the PHP server. It collects everything that has been sent from the user interface using the post method. Where are we doing that? We are doing that on our JavaScript, and this is the method. So as soon as we invoke this method, this is the content that we are sending to this script, and this script is going to put that information inside a post. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to var dump. That means display what is inside post when we are clicking this. Okay, let's see. Okay, sorry, maybe I've made a mistake. Okay, I was supposed to put capital letters there. Okay, let's see. As you can see, the array has got nothing at the moment because there is no user interface that have sent some information using the post method. However, when we click here, that will mean there is a user interface, which is in case this one, that has sent this information via post. So let's see what will happen when we click here. As you can see that now this array has got something. Here is it. It has got two it has got two variable names, or two what are the content of an array? If it's an associative array, it has got the key and the value, yes, but let's say it has got some sort of two values, let's say, for now, okay, for the lack of a better word. So it's the username, which was coded design, and the password, it's password. Where are we getting that? We are assigning it here. Here is this information. So do you see that we can communicate with the back end by sending this information? So now the back end, we need to send a key information that will tell the back end that now we are coming from the UI. Okay, so let's just say UI. Let's have a key called UI request. Okay, which is the UI request will be, let's say for now it's login, or to make things simple, because this information doesn't really matter, let's just say set. So as soon as this UI request is set, that means it's not empty, then this guy will know that this information is coming from, this request is coming from the user interface. So let's quickly test that. Okay, let's say if is set. Okay, let me copy this. Okay, if is set, okay, let me say if is set for now, and then we say UI request. Let me copy it from here so that I can put the spelling name as it is. So we are going to an array called post. It has got a lot of keys there, including what? Including the UI request, sorry, including UI request, username and password. But now we are interested in the UI request. We are asking ourselves if the UI request is set, then what you can do if the UI request is set, please echo. That will mean the server is sure that this information is coming from the UI. So echo user name and password correct, and then from then what are you going to do? You are going to die. Okay. Okay, if you feel like obviously this doesn't really make sense at this moment in time, or it feels like it's a little bit complicated, as I've told you, this is not the best way to do things. I'm doing this so that when we are bringing a solution to it, then you can have an insight as to why things need to be done the other way. Because if I can just come and do things nice and neat the correct way, you might lose some sort of an in-depth knowledge on how do you apply object-oriented programming to solve problem, and also how do you apply good programming practices like clean code, solid principle, and design pattern. So now we are saying when we receive a request from the UI, we can test if is this key on this associative array set. If it is set, I know that I'm supposed to respond with information that relates to the name and the password. Let's quickly test that. Okay, number one, we are dumping that information, that the post information. As you can see, that username and password is correct, so we don't need to dump that post again. There is no need that we can dump that post again. Okay, as you can see, now we can load the login page. Correct, perfect, it's clean, and I like the way it is. And then when we click here, now the server knows distinctively or uniquely knows that this request is coming from the login page, and it's a user, and it needs some sort of an assurance when it comes to is this user correct or is not correct. Hence it's responding to us and saying that username and password correct. Do you see that the message that we are getting now, it's very clean, straight to the point, because we are applying the single responsibility principle, that the index page must only do one thing. If it's dealing with PHP and conditions, it must do that. It must not involve the user interface things in here. If this user interface code, which is the HTML, it's involved, let it be included, or let it be dynamically included. That means we must include it when we need it. Otherwise, for me, Matthew Msingati, that's about it. If you feel like this is a little bit complicated, please go through the video and watch them again and again and again until you understand the concept. I hope you have got a lot of value out of this project. Otherwise, for me, Matthew Msingati, thank you so much. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you on the next one.